Biology Unit 1. 1.1 The Science of Biology. Biology concepts. The cell is the basic unit of life. Genes are the basic unit of heredity. Diversity is seen among living organisms. All organisms survive by consuming and transforming energy. All organisms maintain a stable internal environment. Biology has evolved since we first started studying it in ancient civilizations, and we hear more about biotechnology and things like that since we have access to the internet. Science is a process that requires the testing of ideas using evidence gathered from the natural world. Science also refers to the body of knowledge produced by scientific investigation. Two very important key terms as we begin this unit in biology. Science, a process of learning of the natural world that tests ideas using evidence gathered from nature. Biology, a natural science concerned with the study of life and living organisms. Characteristics of life. There are many characteristics that living organisms share, but all, and that is our key word, all living organisms are going to respond to their environment, grow and develop, produce offspring, maintain homeostasis, have complex chemistry, and consist of cells. Again, all living things are going to grow and develop. All living things are capable of reproduction, a process where living things are going to give rise to offspring. All living things are maintaining that constant internal environment. All living things have complex chemistry. We have hormones that are running through our body. All forms of life are built on cells. Those cells move up to tissues and then to organs. Interdependence of living things. All living things depend on their environment to supply them three things. Those three things are food, water, and shelter. What is symbiosis? And they are different types of symbiosis, but it's a close relationship between organisms of different species where one of them is benefiting. An example could be a horse in a barn stall, and the flies or bugs are bothering the horse, and a bird lands on the horse and eats the flies or the bugs. So one of them, the horse, of course, is benefiting, but also the bird. Competition is when living things that depend on the same resources are possibly going to fight and possibly kill each other in order to have the most of the resources. Organization of living things. So organisms of the same species that live in the same area make up a population. So you could have a population of robins, which is a type of bird. All of the populations that live in the same area make up the community. So for example, I could have a community of birds in my backyard. It could be made up of brown thrashers and robins and doves. So that's a community. It's all of the populations that live in that same area. An ecosystem, though, consists of all of the living things in the given area. And that is also including the non-living. So an ecosystem, I could describe it as, okay, yes, it includes all of the birds that we talked about, but it's also going to include the soil, water, and sunlight. A group of similar ecosystems with the same general type of physical environment is called a biome. And we'll study this later as we learn about an aquatic biome or terrestrial biome. The biosphere is the part of Earth where all life exists. This includes land, water, and air. A biosphere is going to have different biomes, like we talked about, and many individual organisms can be organized in different levels inside of it. An ecosystem is going to consist of all the populations in that given area, even the non-living environment. The biosphere is the part of Earth where life exists. And the diversity of the living things is called biodiversity. 1.2, process of science. The discovery of the scientific method is not credited to a single person. We're not able to prove exactly who started the scientific method because it is a process. But there are some very notable figures. So Aristotle, his picture is here, is considered one of the earliest scientists that talked about logic and cycles of observation. During the Renaissance, that's when many thinkers and scientists continued developing rational ideas of how do we discover new things and prove that they are facts. And so we've got Sir Isaac Newton, of course, that we know about gravity, or Galileo with the planets. So there's lots of well-known scientists that we're going to learn about this year. CER. So this is a claim, evidence, and reasoning model. So the claim is a statement that answers a question. The evidence is the scientific data that will support it. And the reasoning is the how and why. We call it sometimes the scientific rule. So this goes along with the scientific method. It's really a model that we use to follow along as we're trying to prove something is a fact. 1.3, future of biology. Technology is going to always change. It's continuously changing and has over the years. Biotechnology is something pretty new, and it's the basis of scientific and technology process and how we're now improving the quality of life. We have different branches of biotechnology, and they are commonly referred to using colors. So this is very important. White is going to represent industrial biotechnology. If I was mentioning, okay, vitamin C, you could say, oh, white. So the color is representing what is being produced in that type of biotechnology realm. Green is going to refer to anything related to agriculture. It could be fertilizers, could be bug spray or pathogens, genetic engineering methods. Red is what we're going to use for our medical biotechnology area, and that would also involve creation of drugs and research techniques. 1.4, significance of carbon. This element is super important. Without this element, life would not even exist as we know it. So it's a central element, and it's necessary for life. So the compound is found in every living thing, and those compounds are known as organic compounds. So if it's an inorganic compound, it does not involve carbon. Organic compounds are made of cells, and they help us carry out life processes. And so many times you will hear, what is a carbon footprint? A carbon footprint is the total amount of greenhouse gas that is generated by our actions. And that is something that has come to light in the last 50 years where we're studying, okay, how much electricity am I wasting? And what is my carbon footprint? So the average carbon footprint for a person is 16 tons. It's one of the highest rates in the world in the United States. Globally, though, the average carbon footprint is closer to 4 tons. So we want to make sure that our global temperatures do not increase. And so in order to do that, we'd have to lower greenhouse gases. And so our goal is to drop it down so everyone is using 2 tons per year. 1.4, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. So for carbohydrates, they are organic compounds used to store energy. A monosaccharide, a monomer of carbohydrates is a simple sugar, fructose, glucose. Complex carbohydrates have 2 main functions: storing energy and forming structures out of living things. Proteins. Proteins are organic compounds made up of amino acids. A protein may have up to 4 levels of its structure, so it's quite complex. And enzymes are proteins that speed up reactions in our cells. So antibodies are proteins that target pathogens for destruction. Lipids, organisms use lipids to store energy. We have 2 types of fatty acids, saturated and unsaturated. Animals use saturated fats to store energy, and plants use unsaturated fatty acids to store energy. Phospholipids are major components of cell membranes that we're going to study more later, and excessive dietary lipids can be harmful. Nucleic acids. DNA carries a really unique code. Everyone's DNA has something special, and that code is saying, okay, yes, this person's going to have brown hair, this person's going to have blue eyes, and this code is making proteins that's giving you your traits. Half is going to come from the mom, and half is going to come from the dad. And we have 4 types of nitrogen bases, and if you look at the image, that is a DNA spiral. And if you could see the different colors, to see where in the spiral you have a yellow mixing with a green, touching a green. So we have an ACGT in DNA. And one way to remember it, we say apples belong in a tree. So the apple always matches up with the T, and cars go in the garage. So the C is going to always match up with the G. And if there's any mix up in the spiral, that's when we see mishaps in the genome. All right, so this is your summary for Unit 1. Thank you so much.